The bar was a storm that night, not the kind that roars through the streets, but the kind that brews inside people, anger, laughter, exhaustion, all colliding in the same smoky air. The lights were dim, casting long shadows across cracked wooden floors, and the jukebox played an old country song that nobody was really listening to. Cigarette smoke coiled around tired faces, men leaned over whiskey glasses like they were confiding in old friends, and the air smelled of beer, sweat, and bad decisions. The kind of night where words were cheap and tempers expensive. Behind the counter moved Emily, quiet, efficient, almost invisible. She wasn't the kind of woman who drew attention. No flashy clothes, no loud makeup. Just jeans, a white button-up shirt, hair tied back, eyes down. She carried plates, poured drinks, smiled when she had to, and disappeared into the background when she didn't. But what no one in that room knew was that Emily had once stood in a very different kind of storm, one filled with sand, gunfire, and the deafening silence that follows explosions. To everyone in that bar, she was just a waitress. To herself, she was a survivor, and before the night was over, the world would see it too, because when fate cornered her, when cruelty tried to break her, Emily would remind them all that real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It stands still, steady as a heartbeat, and refuses to fall. That night would change everything, not just for her, but for every soul who witnessed what came next. The bar door slammed open. The sound cut through the chatter like a gunshot. Heads turned. A group of bikers walked in, leather vests, heavy boots, eyes scanning the room like they owned it. The regulars straightened in their seats, the music seemed to fade. Trouble had just walked through the door. They took a table near the center, loud from the start. Laughter that wasn't joyful, words meant to sting, the kind of energy that filled every corner with tension. Emily noticed, but didn't flinch. She had seen worse. Carrying her tray, she moved toward them with the same calm she gave every customer. "Evening, folks. What can I get you?" she asked, voice steady. The tall one, the leader, clearly, leaned back, eyes sweeping over her like she was something to toy with. Tattoos climbed his arms, each one a story she didn't care to hear. "Well, sweetheart," he said, "how about a smile first? Drinks taste better when the waitress smiles." The others laughed. Emily didn't. She simply nodded, took their order, and turned away. That quiet, that refusal to feed their arrogance, irritated him. It always did. Men like that thrive on reaction. And when they don't get it, they dig deeper. As the night dragged on, the bikers got louder, sloppier. One of them broke a bottle, another started shouting at the jukebox. The air turned sharp, electric. The regulars stared into their glasses, hoping not to be noticed. When Emily returned with another round, the leader reached out and grabbed her wrist. "Come on, girl," he sneered, "don't act so cold. We're just having fun." "Let go," she said quietly. Something in her tone, calm, firm, made a few people glance up, but instead of letting go, he laughed. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Then, in a flash of cruelty and bravado, he grabbed her shirt and ripped it open. The sound, fabric tearing, was deafening. For a second, no one breathed. Then came the gasps, the nervous laughter, the eyes that couldn't look away, but what they saw wasn't what they expected, because beneath that torn white shirt wasn't shame. It was honor. Etched across her chest was a United States Marine Corps emblem, bold, black, unyielding. The eagle, globe, and anchor glinted beneath the bar's dull light like a medal. The laughter stopped, the biker froze. His hand fell away like it had touched fire. His smirk faltered. Emily didn't move. Didn't hide herself. Didn't break. She just looked at him, one steady, silent look, and in that moment, every man in that bar saw the kind of strength they could never imitate, because she wasn't just a waitress, she was a Marine. The biker took a step back. His throat bobbed, his voice gone. The room was silent, the kind of silence that humbles even the loudest hearts. Emily adjusted her torn shirt, picked up her tray, and turned away. She didn't shout. She didn't demand an apology. She simply walked back behind the counter and resumed her work as if nothing had happened, but something had happened. Something unforgettable that in the days that followed, the story spread faster than whiskey on wood, the waitress with the marine tattoo. That biker who messed with the wrong woman. Did you hear what she did? But Emily never said a word about it, because that tattoo wasn't about pride. It was a memory of dust, blood, and survival. Years earlier, she had enlisted to escape the cycle of poverty that had swallowed her hometown. She was 19, scared, and desperate to become something more than invisible. The Marines had forged her. She had faced things those men at the bar could never imagine, the weight of comrades lost, the nights that ended in silence where laughter used to be. When she came home, she carried that world inside her, every scream, every prayer, every loss, but the world didn't greet her with parades or banners. It greeted her with indifference. So she blended in. Found work where she could. Tried to build a quiet life out of the noise in her head. The bar became her refuge, a place where she could be just Emily, not sergeant, not veteran, not survivor. Just a woman trying to live. But that night, when her past was exposed, she realized something. Sometimes, life reveals who you are not to shame you, but to remind others of what real courage looks like. After the incident, the biker never returned. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was fear. The regulars, though, they changed. Men who used to shout for her attention now spoke softly. The ones who used to overlook her began greeting her with respect. They didn't pity her, they saw her, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt something she hadn't in years, peace. But even peace comes with shadows. At night, alone in her small apartment, Emily would sit by the window with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at the city lights. The tattoo on her chest would catch the faint glow, and she'd trace it absent-mindedly, her mind wandering back to desert skies and fallen friends. She carried ghosts. But she carried them with grace, because true strength isn't about forgetting pain, it's about learning to live alongside it. She never saw herself as a hero. She never wanted to. She was just someone who did what needed to be done, in war, in work, in life, and maybe that's what made her story matter. Years later, the bar shut down. The neon lights that once flickered above its door went dark. But the story of that night never died. It became something of a legend, told and retold like a whispered prayer. People remembered her not for the tattoo, not even for the confrontation, but for what she represented, quiet dignity in the face of cruelty. Some said she taught them to respect what they didn't understand. Others said she made them rethink what strength really looks like. But for those who had been there, who had seen it unfold, the lesson was simple: never mistake silence for weakness, because sometimes, the quietest person in the room carries the loudest story of all. And somewhere, years later, in a quiet home filled with sunlight and old memories, Emily sits with her coffee again. A photograph of her platoon rests on the table. Young faces, brave hearts. She smiles softly, a single tear slipping down her cheek. The world may have forgotten that night, but the strength it revealed, her strength, lives on in the stories people still whisper, the kind of story that reminds us all, real heroes don't need to be seen, they just need to stand. Sparkle's Echo Tales moral: sometimes, the strongest souls are the quietest ones. The ones who fought wars both seen and unseen, and still choose kindness over anger, dignity over rage. Remember that every person you meet carries a story, and some of those stories could humble the world.